All right, we have a pawn. And from this pawn, we are going to make a bishop. So I'm going to hit W to get my move tool. And I'm going to hold Shift and move it. And this I'm going to call bishop. And I don't want it to be an instance, I want it to be a copy. This would imply that they're connected in a way such that I would modify one and the other one would also modify, and I don't want that to happen. I want them to be individual pieces in their own right. So there we go. And I want this one to be on the origin since that's the bishop. So we're going to do this. And just to be clear, I'm going to get my snap toggle and just make sure I snap it there. All right. So if I want to work on this without seeing this, I can hit this little button down here which isolates it. So now I can do all this bishop stuff to it without the pawn being in the way of my view. So I'll hit perspective. What I'm going to do is show you a new tool, and most chess sets keep the base similar and then just the tops change. So that's what we're going for here. I'm just going to show you how to change the top of this to be more like a bishop. What we'll need to do, I'm going to go in the front view and I'm going to zoom in really close, and I'm going to get vertex, and lucky me, it's the one that's selected. So I only want this, and if I'm in the front view, I know that there will be nothing behind this situation here. I won't be selecting any vertices behind it. It's just this one here. And the tool I'm going to show you here is soft select. Actually, before we do this, I'm going to go ahead and take all of this, and I will still show you soft select. So we're going to go in here, and first of all, I'm going to say use soft select, and you'll see now that this is a rainbow color. And what this rainbow color is doing is it's indicating the strength of the pull. So if I were to pull this now, you can see how it's kind of has a graduated strength. I'm going to hit Control Z because I don't want to pull it that way. I'm going to show you something else. So this is a kind of a side view of the two controls you have, which is fall off and pinch. I'm sorry, pinch and bubble. Fall off is going to allow you to more accurately control the areas where you want this weight to be. So I'm going to go a little bit like this anyway. And you can see I can pull this, and now down here is not affected. Again, I'm going to Control Z because you see when I do pull this up, it creates a whole different weighted system. So it's weighting out the strength based on your selection. So if I have this selected, you'll see that this rainbow curve is now here. This is not affected. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select all this because I don't want this part and all that to change just yet. And I will show you more about the pinch and the bubble next. So this I'm just going to maybe graduate from about here. So I don't affect the base, and this is a little bit more evenly distributed of a pull. So I'm just going to raise that up a little bit because a bishop is a little taller than a pawn. Now I'm going to grab this, and I really only want to affect this bubbly part here. So I'm going to weight this back down to where I'm only sort of using this area here. Okay. About this pinch and bubble. So this is giving you a side view of how this is going to pull. Let's make sure I just have one. Make sure you only have this one at the top. So you see how it evenly distributes this rainbow around it. You don't want to have it be like, well, you know, you don't want like, so you have it like this. It's not going to distribute this weight. Now it's off kilter. So you just want that one. Okay, I'm going to make sure I have that one. Okay, so pinch. If I'm pulling this, you can see how it creates this pinchy shape. So if I'm in the front view and I pull this up, I didn't have that one. This one. No, stop it. This one. All right, if I pull this up, you see how it's creating this pinchy sort of shape. All right, so the same token, and you can see how it adjusts the rainbow. So by the same token, I could, let's say I make this really bubbly. Let's say I make it bubbly such like this, and the pinches, so we have this sort of shape. Okay, so now when I pull this up, you can see I am getting that kind of shape, right? So it's kind of a cool tool. All right, so I'm in the front view, and what I'm going to do is not have it be like this. I'm going to have it be more, not any of these things. I want it to be a round, just a roundish shape. So I'm going to pull this up. You know what, maybe I do want a little bit of a, no, not like that. More like that. Okay, so I get more of an egg shape instead of just this oval. So I'm gonna go like that. I'm gonna leave that there. So that's all I need about this soft select. So I'm gonna turn it off. Make sure you turn it off. Otherwise, you're going to have everything you select will be a soft select, and that's not what we want. We're doing this would be kind of considered a hard surface modeling thing. So this could also be useful in organic modeling if you're trying to make a more of an organic shape, or you wanted to change the look of something by thinning it out or bulging it up. You could do it like that. All right, so what we have now is this bishop. All right, so I'm going to show you this tool. It's called a Boolean. We're going to make that cut that bishops have. And to do this, we need to make the shape that we want to extract or subtract from it. A Boolean is a mathematical algorithm that we would find in our compound objects. We will find Boolean. It moved. It used to be over here. Okay, here we go. I'm in 2020. You might be in 2018 or something like that. It might be over here, but this is the word Boolean. All right, so I'm going to go in my front view. I don't need that. I don't need this thing yet, so I don't even know what just happened here. I don't want that. All right, I hit F and I think it went to fluid. All right, I need to make the shape that I want to extract. So this will be a box. So we're going to get our standard primitives and make a box. I'm going to go ahead and make it be about like that, and I'm just going to drag it off. It may be 0 like that, but I can go to my Modify tab, and I'm going to say 10. All right, maybe I'll say 50. That's better. I turn my snaps off. All right, so I'm making it longer so it goes all the way through. So if I go to my front view, I can take this and raise it up. I'm hitting E to rotate, get my rotate tool. I'm going to rotate it. Make sure you're in the front view when you do this. So you're rotating it exactly on the Z axis here, it looks like. Again, Max is weird with its pivot points. I'm going to hit W to move. I'm going to place it about right here. You have access to Google. You can look what a bishop looks like, but it will have this slice through here. So you can see how this box is now going all the way through. And what we're going to do is we're going to extract this shape. So I'm hitting F again. All right, so I'm going to click on the bishop because this I want to be my operand A. This is going to be operand B. We're going to take operand A and subtract operand B. Operand B is not a polygon, and I want this to be affected, not this to be affected. It's This will retain this bishop name. This will retain this box name when we're done. This will be the primary, and I want this to be the primary situation here. So I'm going to go to my Create tab, and we're going to go back to that Compound Objects, Boolean, and you can see pick operand. It already has operand bishop in there first. So we need to add operand, this one, and that's operand B, and we can say subtract, and now we have a subtraction of this in here. Now, I've shown you this tool, and it's handy for certain industries, such as product design, maybe architectural renderings or something of that nature where the geometry does not matter. You're just taking one render of it. It's fine. You could even have it in an animated situation where you're just rendering out this animation if it's just sitting there. Like, I don't know why you would have it. Maybe it's a slice in a tree or something. You have a tree in your scene. But you can see that geometry here is not suitable for games. So I do not recommend this if you think you can take this into a game engine. You would have to do a lot of cleaning up with this geometry here. So this is not suitable for games, but I am showing you the tool so that you know. When we come back over here to the Modify tab, you see it has this Boolean onto this box. We're just going to go to Editable Poly and make it an editable poly. So here we are back with our bishop with this piece cut out. All right, front view. Now we're going to talk about spheres again. I covered this before, but we're going to talk about spheres because you'll know they have this little circle here on top of their hat, their bishop hat. So we're going to make, we're going to go back to our standard primitives. We're going to get our sphere. Now remember how the sphere is. I'm in my front view. So when I draw this sphere, the pole is facing me. This is not good for the situation I have here. If I go to the left view and I drag this, you'll see the pole is facing me. Again, not conducive to what we need. If I go to the top view, however, and you can see already what I'm getting at, because our bishop already has this sort of geometry, and we want to match that. So if I draw my sphere now in this view, you can see that it's matching this. And to match it even further, I know that we have 16 sides. So over here where it says segments, we're going to say 16, and you can see already this is limiting itself. I want to make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 16 sides. So we can mimic that. I'm going to go to my front view again, and I'm going to hit Q, and I'm going to select this one and delete it, and that one. Zoom out if you can't see it. I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to go ahead and, I know this is snapped, but I'm going to show you another tool. This needs to be smaller too. So I'm going to hit R for scale. Make sure that you have the triangle in there. If it's doing something weird, remember to check up here and make sure that your scale is not like this one or something weird. So I'm going to scale this down a little bit. I'm going to hit my W, place it over here, but I want it to be exact. So what I'm going to do is, there is this align tool, this one here. So I have this selected, I hit align, and you can see my cursor has changed because I want to align it to this. And then this dialog box will come up, and I just want it to, already it has aligned itself to the pivot point, which is fine because I know that was in the center of this, and with this cutout, it's a weighted situation, so I'm going to leave it just like that. You could also say center and center. That'll probably work, and I'm going to say okay. I'm going to make sure where this is. I'm going to say okay. And you can see it's right centered with this. If I confine my pull onto the Y, I can pull this up and have it be, maybe I want it to touch. I'm going to try and line that up to where this line segment is right here. Line that up right there. All right, so I'm going to select my bishop again because it's already the edible poly. This is just a sphere, right? So I have no menu over here with that to do anything, but I can go back to my bishop, which I want. I want that to be the primary thing that I'm going to attach this to. So I'm going to close my soft select so I can see things better and attach. And again, I'm going to attach this. And now you see it's the same color and all that, attached it in a nice spot. You don't have to weld it. And our bishop is done. All right, so I can undo this isolate. Now I have a bishop and a pawn. All right, so I'm going to take this. I'm going to go ahead and move this over. And this I'm going to select my bishop. I'm going to get my snap. I'm going to, I need to make my snap be confined. So it's here. To get this little menu to confine your snap, see without this, I cannot confine to the X. The Y is also selected. There's nothing I can do. But when I hit the XY to confine my selection, I can move it just on the X. So to get this, if you right click in an empty space here, it snaps here. You might find it down here before it goes up there, but it snaps and it's this little thing, and I just put it up there. Okay. On the X, holding shift and copying that over, and I'm snapping it to the origin. Again, this is a copy, and this time we're going to make a rook. And this is the last piece we're going to make. So if you want to continue on making more than this, go ahead and experiment and practice with some of these things. But this is the last one I'm going to show you, which pretty much from the start has covered several of the tools that you will need to make pretty much everything you need. So in this case, we're going to make this a rook, so we don't need this part. I'm going to call it a rook. I'm going to get the polygon here, and I'm going to select the whole top of it all the way to there. So you might select what you have to this little fancy part you have, and I'm just going to hit delete. So again, we now just don't have it there, right? I'm going to go back to my create tab because we're going to make the top of this, and I'm going to use a cylinder for this. So I'm going to just click and drag, and oh, you know what? I need to turn off snaps. Let's try that again. Click and drag, and I can bring this up. You can see, and I'll click to end it. I'm going to go over to my modify tab because this is not the amount of geometry I need or the kind of geometry I need. I need geometry here on the top. As it is, this is one big n-gon with 18 sides here. And immediately I'm going to change, well, I'm going to go to 6. I had to make sure I was in my modify tab. I'm going to go to 16 because I know we have 16. So again, I'm matching the number. Height segments, we just need 1. We don't need all of those. And this cap segment, to get the geometry inside, I'm going to say 2. And you'll see now we have this geometry inside that we can work with. Without it, we would need to take time in cutting all that up, and it's just, this makes it so that you can bring it into a game engine because it has quads and triangles, and we're fine with that. Anything more than a quad, again, is bad if you're trying to bring it into a game engine. Any other thing you're going to do with it, it's probably fine. But not if you're going to try and animate it. You still want this kind of geometry when you animate. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is we can right-click this, change to an edible poly, or you can right-click in here and say edible poly, whatever. First off, I'm going to get this edge and double-click on this one. It doesn't matter about this one here. It's the thing I know that I'm going to make that I want to bring this out a little bit. So I'm going to get my scale tool, so R for scale, and I'm only going to branch it out on the X and Y axis, right? I'm not doing the whole thing here. I don't even think it could if it wanted to. It's a two-dimensional situation. So I'm going to maybe about there, right? Because we're going to bring up these, are they turrets? You know, the things there. Okay, so I'm going to get my polygons now. And I know that this isn't going to be exactly accurate. I know the math is 16 here, so it's going to have to be every other one. I'm going to hold control. I'm going to hit Q, right? So I don't have any of my transform tools, so I don't actually accidentally move these while I'm selecting it. Hit control, and I'm going to skip every other one. So we're going to have this many. Now, this is going to be our first extrude here. So the extrude tool, you could just use this button, but I highly recommend using the settings. I feel like it has a little bit more control. You can move this little gizmo around. Be aware of group, local, normal, and by polygon. If you say by polygon, I'll hit yes here, and I hit control. This is what you'll get if you say by polygon. I'm going to hit control Z. So you don't want that one, right? You don't want these to be separate. Group is good. We're fortunate that these are all facing in the same direction, so by group they're being fine. If you wanted a more average, you might need to say local normal, depending on how you're selecting this. For example, let me select these, and you can see by group they're going out basically in one direction. By local normal, you'll see they will be expanding out in the direction of their normal, and also trying to average it a little bit because this would be wider if it were all true. But so at this point, because these are all going in the same direction, it doesn't matter whether you have group or local normal. I'm just going to leave it at the default group. I can actually control Z and go back to my, okay, control Y, puts them back. All right, so I just need to make sure that it's not by polygon, so I'll stay with local group. Clearly, I don't want them to be that high, so we can adjust it this way. Maybe something like that, and I will check this off to make it true. And this is another place to go over where I say, our normals, right? Whenever you extrude something, it will come without a group, a smoothing group. So you can see, I'm going to turn the grid off. G is the grid. So you can see this here is smooth, right? Nice and smooth here, but this is faceted with the light here. So we need to match this smoothing group, which is 4. So if I select all of these, holding Alt, trying to get this around, Control, holding Alt to swivel around. If you want to isolate this, you can click this and have a better go. We might as well click these here too. They are also faceted, and we need them to be smooth. Remember, it just matters that these are the same number. So now you can see that these are nicely smoothed. These are nicely smoothed. These don't, this has a leftover one of this, and because they are separated by another, these are the only ones left that don't have a smoothing group. You could leave them or give them a smoothing group. If you were to take this into a game engine or export it, you would get a warning saying not everything has a smoothing group. So you could select all those if you really want to be all the way. I'll just say 25. It doesn't matter. Just so long as it's not matching anything else. This is fine. While we're at it, we can come down here and select all these. Oops, see, I moved it. So, you know, Q is good for selecting. I'm going to hit delete. This lends us the opportunity to select something by border. Look at this. We can go border, select this border. R for scale, I'm going to scale that in a bit. And again, front view, I'm going to unisolate everything here. This is really big, so I am going to scale it down using the yellow triangle. Remember, if it's weird, check there. I'm going to move this up kind of in the vicinity. I'm going to use the Align tool. Click this, center, apply. I'm going to, okay, again, only on the Y, bring this up. I'm going to look in here, make sure it's just where I want it. I might want to raise that whole thing up. Probably will. Okay, so I'm going to click on the rook and say attach. Click that. Now we have a rook. Undo your button so you don't accidentally attach things. And that concludes the actual making of our I'm going to select here, use my soft select. Make sure I don't affect that too much. Maybe kind of make that a little taller. I could also do something like this, right? So I can take this, come in here, my scale tool. See, and I can kind of bulge it out. You could do stuff like that too, you know. Anyway, the next video I'm going to do is I will show you how we can, if I select all these, I'm going to hit the W tool, hold shift, move that out. So I might say bishop B. Well, that's for not for all of them. That's rook B. B. Pawn B. Bishop B. Okay, so this would be rook white. Bishop white. Pawn white. Okay, so the reason I would do this is so that they would line up in a list. So if I were to look at these things, you can see it's going to say, it'll give me both the bishops, both the pawns, both the rooks, and then their detail, right? So this is a good way. So let's say you had a scene and you had a bunch of rocks. So it would list all your rocks. And then you had some wild dogs running around, but they have different colors. So you would have, you know, dog black, dog white, dog yellow. I don't know, like Labradors. Dog chocolate, dog, I guess white lab, chocolate lab, black lab. I don't know. You get my point. You would line up all the assets and then their detail of color or size or whatever. Okay. So next video, we will make the black and white plastic pieces out of a box and their chessboard.